Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back. This is Dinesh here, and from this section onwards, we will create an Android app for controlling a robot. Now, the Android app that we will create in this section will mainly consist of 5 buttons. And as you guys would have guessed, these buttons are forward, backward, left, right, and stop buttons. This section will mainly consist of 3 videos, and I'll add more videos if necessary. So in the first video, that is in this video, we are going to create the design for an Android application. In the next video, we will do the graphical programming for an Android app so that it sends the data to our robot. In the third video, that is the last video, we are going to write an Arduino program so that our robot can receive the data from our Android smartphone. So guys, after giving you an idea of what we will do in this section, let's start designing an Android application. So I'll go in projects, I'll click on start new project, and I'll give this project a name of SMARTBOT. I'll then click on OK. So guys, as you can see, my application by the name of SMARTBOT is created over here. Now before we start designing this application, let me show you how the final design of our application will look like. So guys, as you can see over here, this is how a final application will look like. The application will mainly consist of one connect list picker, a disconnect button for disconnecting both the Bluetooths. After that, the SMARTBOT application will consist of 5 main buttons. Okay, you can see one button for forward, one for backward, one for left, right, and the last one for stop. Okay, representing these arrows, you can download these images from the resource section. So guys, if you look at this connect list picker and the forward button, then I have kept a space of 5% between both of them. After that, if you look at this forward button, then the width for this forward button is 30% and the height for this forward button, I've kept it to 20%. Now, I've kept the width and height in terms of percentages, not in pixels guys. Okay, so please keep that thing in mind. Below this forward button, I have a horizontal layout inside which I have placed the left, stop and the right button. Now for the left button, again I have kept the width to 30% and the height to 20%. Then I have kept a small spacing of 5% between the left and the stop button. Similarly, for the stop button, the width is 30 and the height is 20. Then there is again a small spacing of 5% between the stop and the right button, and at the last, the right button also has a width of 30% and a height of 20%. So if we add up the width of the left stop and the right button, including the spacing, then the total is 100. Okay, that is the width of this button is 30. There is a space of 5%, that is 35 plus 30. That's 65 plus 5, that is 70. And last, the width for this button is also 30%. So the total is 100%. So guys, before you set the width and height for any of the button, please make sure that the width and height are in the range of 100%. If you look at this last button over here, that is the back button, this button also has a width of 30 and a height of 20. At the last, you can see this disconnect button, and the spacing between the disconnect and the back button is again 5%. So guys, I've basically set everything in terms of pixels over here. Now after explaining you how the design of a SMARTBOT app will look like, let's start designing it. So the first thing that I'll do is I'll take a list picker and I'll keep it over here. Now guys, as you can see, the list picker is on the top left side. So the next thing that I'll do is I'll click on screen and I'll change the align horizontal to center, as I want the components to be in the center. After that, next I'll click on this connect list picker and I'll change its text to connect. Okay, after that I'll increase the font size of this to 20. Next I'll make this bold. I'll change the background color to green. I'll keep the width to 80% over here. And at the last, I'll change the shape to rounded. Now after the connect list picker, next I'll go in layouts and I'll drag a horizontal layout over here. After adding the horizontal layout, I'll change the height of it to 5%. So guys, please make sure I'm changing the percentage, not the pixels. So this is 5%. After that, I'll go in user interface and I'll drag a button over here. Next, I'll go in layouts. I'll drag one more horizontal layout Now guys, please make sure that this layout that you drag after the button 1 should be horizontal layout, as we are going to place 3 buttons horizontally inside this. Next, I'll select the horizontal layout too, and I'll change the width of it to fill parent. Okay. Now after this, I'll drag 3 buttons inside it. 1, 2 and 3. So for the time being, I'm just adding up components over here. Now after adding the left stop and the right button, at the last I'll add the back button. Next, I'll go in layout. I'll add one more layout at the bottom. I'll again change the height of it to 5%. I'll press OK, and at the last I'll add the disconnect button over here. So I'll change the text of it to disconnect. I'll change the text color to white. I'll change the background color to red, and next I'll change this to 20. I'll change the font size to 20. I'll make the font bold. I'll change the width of it to 80, and at the last I'll change the shape to rounded. So after changing the design of the disconnect button, now comes the main part in which I have to rearrange these 5 buttons over here for forward, backward, left, right and stop. So first I'll select the forward button. Okay, but before making any changes in the forward button, let me change the component name of the list picker and the disconnect button. So I'll click on list picker 1. I'll rename this to connect list picker. I'll click OK. And for button number 6, okay, which is a disconnect button, I'll give this a name of disconnect. I'll press OK again. Now after that, I'll click on the forward button. I'll rename this to forward button first. Next, I'll select the forward button again. After that, I'll change the width of it. Okay, so as I told you before, the width of this button will be 30%, and the height of it, okay, I'll change the height of this button to 20% over here. After that, I'll remove the text inside it, and as I told you before, I'll set a background image for this button. So I'll click on images. I'll click on upload file. So I'll search for the file which I have kept. So guys, as you can see, I have these images over here. You can download these images from the resource section. So for the forward button, I'll download this image which says up. So I'll select it. I'll click on open. After that, I'll click on OK. So you can see the image for the forward button is set over here. Next, I'll click on the left button. I'll rename it to left BTN. I'll click OK. Next, I'll change the width of it to 30%. I'll change the height to 20%. Now guys, as you can see, as soon as I changed the height of this button to 20%, you can see this button is getting a little cropped over here, and that is because I have kept the height of horizontal arrangement to automatic. So I should first change this height also to 20%. So I'll change this to 20%. I'll click OK over here. Now as you can see, this button is showing up properly over here. So I'll click on the left button and I'll remove the text for it, and I'll again set the background image for this button. So for the left button, I'll choose the left icon. Next, I'll click on the middle button, that is the stop button. I'll rename this to stop BTN. I'll change the height to 20. I'll change the width to 30, and I'll remove the text. I'll upload an image for the stop button over here. So this will be the circle. I'll do the same for the right button. Okay, I just made a small mistake over here. The height should be 20% and the width should be 30% over here. Okay, so guys, please make sure that you don't make this small mistakes. Okay, this could be a little confusing sometimes. So I'll go in images and I'll select the right.png image, and at the last I'll do the same for the back button. So I'll rename button 5 to backward button. I'll change the height to 20% and I'll change the width to 30%. I'll remove the text. I'll use a down arrow. Now guys, once I'm done with this, the next thing that I have to do is I need to add some spacing between the left stop and the right button. So I'll go and layout again, and this time I'll select horizontal arrangement and I'll add this arrangement between the left and the stop button. After that, I'll select the horizontal arrangement and I'll change the width of this to 5%. I'll add one more horizontal arrangement between the stop and the right button. I'll select this horizontal arrangement and I'll change the width of this also to 5%. Now guys, you can see over here that if I add this horizontal arrangements, that is if I add this spacing of 5%, then the stop button is not coming in the center and the right button is going out of the screen. But don't worry guys, this problem in orientation will only occur on this canvas screen over here, because if you see, when you add the spacing, this green lines also occupy some space. So that's why these buttons are going out of the screen, okay? But guys, when you test this application on an actual phone, that time you'll find out that the stop button will come in the middle and the forward and the backward button are exactly placed on top of it. Okay, so this offset in terms of spacing only occurs in this canvas over here. Now, before I end this video, there are a few things that needs to be completed. So I'll click on screen 1, and after that I'll change the align vertical. Currently the align vertical is at the top, so I'll change the align vertical to center so that all the components come in the center of the screen. If you want, you can leave the align vertical to top as well. That's totally your choice. I prefer this center position. And after this, we need to add one last component. That is, I need to add the Bluetooth client. So I'll drive the Bluetooth client on the screen. Now guys, I basically finished with the main designing part. In the next video, we will do the graphical programming for our application.